What's going on, everybody? CGA Sports back in here on the CGA Gaming channel. I appreciate y'all for being here. Let's get into this Emi Udoka situation. I know we're not going to belabor the point anymore. I didn't make videos. I took a step back from this situation and made videos on this channel because I didn't want to chase views. I want this stuff to unravel and show and expose a lot of things about definitely specifically men in their sexual promiscuity on the job in which they're able to fumble $50 million bag like Emmy did. I didn't want to really talk about that. I didn't want to belabor the point between the Stephen A. Smith argument and who's defending what and why people are defending it. It shouldn't be defensible at this particular point. He fumbled the bag. I didn't want to go over the point of why the woman wasn't being exposed. We all know the game, and you should know the game. And if you're in 2022 and you don't know the game and you're unaware of why the woman gets to hide in anonymity and why Emi Udoka is being dragged, well, you haven't been keeping up with the modern day progression of society. What I want to talk about is one, ESPN and their female anchors and their female on-air personalities, and why ESPN continues to fumble the bag in promoting these personalities for some sort of demographic view. I'm not sure what it is, but what it does is it takes the modern day microcosm of many times the Black community, but the communities in general. And it highlights the fact that many of these on-air personalities, when they're minorities, they don't respect many of the Black men who, many of them, Stephen A. Smith, with the exception, he was a college basketball player at a lower level. But some of these people who she's interacting with, or many of these female on-air personalities are interacting with, are former professional athletes. And unfortunately, these guys don't get their own show. Many times ESPN thinks it's the genius upon them for their demographic view to promote. Maybe most of the time it's a Black woman, be it Maria Taylor, be it Malika in this situation, or be it Molly Corum. Any one of these situations are always going to take a demographic of women that is somewhat men pedestalized in terms of their looks, and it draws in a certain viewer that are potentially men who are simps. Let's just get it straight, who are just going to pedestalize these women based on their looks. And eventually these women get too big, too ahead of themselves, and they start disrespecting the male on-air personalities. Let me just tell you, the other day I was watching the preseason show of NBA Live, and I just happened to switch it on to ESPN, which I'm very reluctant to do because of who they select to be able to pass on their information related to sports. It's people that I don't even care to hear from. But what I saw was Malika Andrews was the host, and then in studio was 3 other females and Richard Jefferson. Okay, and they're going back and forth on whatever they know. And listen, I'm not disrespecting them saying they're not knowledgeable, but I didn't tune in for that. I've been watching ESPN for a long time. That's not the demographic of people that I want to tune into to get my information about the upcoming basketball season. And many of these women were fumbling through their statements and fumbling through their interviews related to all of the players that they get close to an interview. And then they were in there trying to make all of these comparisons and all of that. I very rarely find women and their breakdown of sports very much of I rarely get information from them. All right. It seems like some sort of gossip, if anything. But let's talk about this Malika Anderson situation, of which she had an exchange against Stephen A. Smith and some other NBA players, and why it continues to highlight the lack of respect that many women have for these men. All right. And particularly, it always seems to be the Black men in this situation, but also how their feminism always creeps out at the wrong times. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. And I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to share another person's video because ESPN tends to censor some of the content that we share. But this is a situation where Malika Andrews called into a show in which the show is supposed to be Stephen A. Smith's show, but she had to call into the show to share her opinion, and her opinion rested highly on feminism and disrespecting Stephen A. Smith. Let's go ahead and roll it.
This is not about pointing the finger. Stop. We are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
Okay, first.
So shout out to this gentleman that allowed me to share this video here on YouTube. First of all, Stephen A. Smith is the main character of ESPN, the main character ESPN. And she's scolding him. This woman is probably under 30 years old. I didn't do my research on her. She appears to be under 30 or slightly ahead of 30, slightly north. She's scolding Stephen A. Smith on his own show. Now, if you don't think women in general and Black women specifically do not respect Black men, I don't know what country you've been living in. It always seems that in essence, whenever they're trying to pander to black men, it is always to do their bidding. And now you have a woman who hasn't been on ESPN for very long. I believe she made her impact during the bubble basketball series of the NBA. Now she's here scolding. She believes she's able to scold Stephen A. Smith when he's the main character of reference for ESPN. I think it's reprehensible. I think it's out. I think it shows why ESPN is making a mistake of their female on-air personalities. And most of them have never worked out. They've never done well. People have never embraced them the longer they've gone. Most of the time, they wore out their welcome. They've worn out their welcome specifically. And now Stephen A. Smith had to come and clean her up, and essentially say, look, this is my show. We're not going to take that level of disrespect. You're not going to cut me off. I listen to you. You need to go ahead and listen to me at this particular point, but know your place here. She wasn't even in studio. And now because of the Emi Udoka situation, this is why this Emi Udoka situation is critical to the fabric of society, or to understand society, is because, yeah, when everything's all cool, everybody's all chummy. Everybody, the female personalities can have their personality, and it can be all cool, and they can be cool with the players and rub elbows, and they can be cool with the on-air personalities. But when it gets down to brass tacks, when it gets down to business and there's something critical in society, you see them lean hard on their feminist stance. And they bring that to ESPN, which is the last place you need to bring such personalities. You don't need that. And that's typical of society as well. When everything's fine in the workplace, everybody's good. But the minute you interact, you cross the line sexually, or you cross the line politically, now all of a sudden people can't even work together. All of a sudden, then everybody's crucifying men and putting them back in their place, even though the men are in better and high prestige in those companies. And that's indicative of ESPN. So it's very hard to watch ESPN and take them seriously as the leader of the sports industry. They are not at this particular point. It's a clown show. It's a damn circus over there, to be fair. And Malika Andrews is just the latest of this. Remember, Molly Quorum went through this with Stephen A. Smith, allegedly, and they allegedly had some sort of affair that broke up, allegedly, the marriage between her, Molly, and Jalen Rose. You had Maria Taylor, which was somewhat of a controversial figure. You had the other ladies. There was other ladies, and I'm bad with names, but those ladies ended up getting a little bit of prestige, a little bit of push, and they wore out their welcome when it became to a point where they started indoctrinating the feminist ideology into the shows. So, with that being said, this is why ESPN continues to lose. They are losing viewerships. Sure, just recently after the summer, they've had an increase in their viewership. They've had a new direction. They're trying to take the politics out of it. Remember the Sports Center show where they had the one lady, Michael, anyway, whatever his name is. And the one lady, they got all political on their show. All right, ESPN has made this mistake several times, hiring these personalities. And then when these personalities get in there, they end up trying to take over the show with their own agenda. And this is why ESPN continues to struggle. Yes, they've had a good summer and they've had a good introduction back to the NFL, but it took the Ime Udoka situation to bring us back to a sense of reality. Jemele Hill is the individual that I'm thinking about. Jemele Hill was another one of these characters that ESPN said, oh, we could put you up there. Guys will like you. You're one of the boys. And then when they got into a situation where they were no longer one of the boys and they started defending ideologies, political ideologies, feminism, they started to put that on the pedestal within ESPN Sports. It rubbed people the wrong way. And yes, ESPN's kind of coming back, but look at their award shows. Just like any other award show, all of these people, like-minded people patting each other on the back. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares. Look at the viewership of those things. Stephen Curry was the host, and they probably had one of the worst turnouts for that show, at least in the last 5 to 10 years. So I don't know, man. ESPN will never get it together because they're a part of Disney and they're going to go that way and they're going to do what's best demographically for them. But now people are starting to see these relationships between men and women. And even though it should be about sports, politics are always about a part of sports. But now you're seeing the disrespect of even men who are the top tier commentators, the top tier on-air personalities getting disrespected by pretty much nobodies who are guests in the house of sports. Many of them, of course, they probably play some college basketball, some college volleyball and whatnot. But when they're disrespecting on-air personalities, the main one, and people like Kendrick Perkins, people like Richard Jefferson, they're talking over them, speaking over them. It gets out of control, and it makes ESPN unbearable to watch at this point until they correct it, which they never will because they're part of the Disney wheelhouse. Anyway, that's my opinion today. Let your opinion be heard on this channel in the comment section. Shout out to the Coach Gang. We out of here. Peace.